The neighborhood looked ordinary at first glance. Rows of modest houses lined the quiet street, their front porches illuminated by soft amber lights that flickered against the darkness of early evening. Children rode bicycles along cracked sidewalks. Lawns were trimmed. Curtains were drawn each night at nearly the same hour. To an outsider, it was the kind of place where little seemed to happen, where every face was familiar and every routine predictable. Yet beneath that appearance of normalcy, something else was unfolding. Long before investigators arrived, long before reporters crowded the sidewalks, long before the disappearance became a headline that would captivate an entire region, there was a man sitting behind a window, watching. Before we dive deeper, subscribe and like for more stories like this. He was not a police officer, not a detective, not a journalist. He was simply a neighbor. And according to those who later spoke with investigators, he seemed to know everything. The neighborhood sat on the edge of a growing suburban community, a place caught between the remnants of small-town life and the rapid expansion of modern development. New houses appeared every year. Families arrived seeking safety, stability, and the quiet comfort of familiarity. The residents knew one another well enough to exchange greetings, wave from driveways, and notice when something seemed out of place. That tendency to notice would later become critically important. At the center of the story was a young woman named Emily Carter. 28 years old, intelligent, ambitious, and by all accounts remarkably dependable, Emily had established a routine that rarely changed. She worked at a local accounting office, visited her parents on weekends, and spent most evenings at home in the small two-story house she had purchased only 3 years earlier. Her life appeared uncomplicated. Friends described her as cautious, organized, predictable, the kind of person who always returned messages, the kind of person who never simply vanished. On a cool autumn evening, Emily finished work shortly after 6 o'clock. Security footage later confirmed her departure from the office parking lot. Several co-workers remembered exchanging brief conversations with her before she left. Nothing appeared unusual. Nothing suggested that this ordinary day would become the final confirmed day anyone would see her alive. Witnesses reported seeing her vehicle enter the neighborhood shortly before sunset. After that, certainty began to disappear. The following morning, Emily failed to arrive at work. Initially, nobody panicked. Employees assumed she might be sick. Perhaps she had overslept. Maybe there had been an emergency requiring her attention elsewhere. Hours passed. Phone calls went unanswered. Text messages remained unread. As concern grew, co-workers contacted family members. The response only deepened the mystery. Emily had not visited relatives. She had not called anyone. Her vehicle remained parked in her driveway. Her house appeared untouched. When officers conducted an initial welfare check, they encountered something that immediately felt wrong. The front door was locked. The windows were secured. Inside, nothing appeared obviously disturbed. Her purse sat near the entrance. Her wallet remained inside. Keys rested on a kitchen counter. The television was off. The bed had not been slept in. Investigators later described the scene as strangely frozen in time, as though normal life had been interrupted in the middle of an ordinary evening. Yet there was no obvious sign explaining why. No note. No evidence of forced entry. No indication of a struggle. No immediate clue revealing where Emily had gone. As news spread throughout the neighborhood, residents gathered in small groups. Conversations unfolded on driveways and front lawns. People exchanged theories, concerns, and fragments of information. Among those residents was a man named Walter Greene. He lived directly across the street. Most neighbors knew him only casually. Walter was retired, lived alone, and spent much of his time at home. Residents often saw him sitting near a large front window overlooking the street. Some considered him observant. Others considered him nosy. Few paid significant attention to him, at least not until investigators began asking questions. During initial interviews, detectives spoke with everyone living nearby. Most residents provided limited information. They remembered seeing Emily arrive home occasionally. They recalled routine neighborhood activity. Nothing unusual. Then detectives reached Walter. The conversation immediately stood apart from every interview conducted before it. Unlike other residents, Walter did not struggle to remember details. In fact, he remembered almost everything. He recalled the exact time Emily's vehicle entered the street that evening. He described the weather conditions. He remembered which neighboring houses had porch lights illuminated. He identified several vehicles that passed through the area during a specific 30-minute window. Most surprisingly, he claimed to have seen a figure walking near Emily's property shortly after dark. The statement captured investigators' attention instantly. The figure, according to Walter, appeared unfamiliar. A man, tall, dark clothing, moving slowly. At first glance, this information seemed invaluable. Detectives pressed for additional details. Walter complied, almost too readily. He described the individual's approximate height, posture, direction of travel, and even estimated how long the person remained visible before disappearing behind a row of trees. The account sounded precise, remarkably precise, perhaps unusually precise. Detectives documented every word. Yet as investigators expanded their timeline and reviewed available evidence, questions began to emerge. No other witness had seen the mysterious individual. No surveillance camera captured anyone matching that description. No physical evidence supported the sighting. The only source placing this unknown figure near Emily's home was Walter himself. Still, investigators could not dismiss the possibility. They continued exploring every lead. Days turned into weeks. Search teams combed nearby woods, drainage areas, abandoned properties, and construction sites. Volunteers distributed flyers across surrounding communities. Media coverage intensified. Public interest grew. Throughout the investigation, Walter remained visible. He attended community meetings, spoke with neighbors, followed developments closely, and each time detectives interviewed him, he seemed to provide additional details. Small observations, minor recollections, fragments of information that somehow expanded with every conversation. Some investigators found this helpful. Others found it troubling. Human memory rarely becomes more detailed over time. Yet Walter's recollections appeared to do exactly that. As scrutiny increased, detectives began examining not only the information he provided, but also the circumstances surrounding his observations. What they discovered would transform the investigation entirely, because Walter had not simply observed the neighborhood casually from time to time. According to several residents, he watched constantly, morning, afternoon, night, for years. And hidden behind the curtains of his quiet home was a collection of notes that suggested his interest in the neighborhood extended far beyond ordinary curiosity. The discovery would force investigators to confront a disturbing possibility. What if the man who appeared to know the most about the disappearance wasn't merely a witness? What if he had been watching for a very different reason? And what investigators would uncover inside Walter Greene's house would raise even more questions than answers. Let us know in the comment what you think about Walter. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like so you don't miss the next part.